first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
You know, crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
The episode that a lot of you probably been waiting for is the International King Kong Grip Challenge recap episode, where we're going to cover the results with Eric Roussin. You've almost been like our recap guy for a lot of other competitions as well, but this one is a little bit, I guess, a little more like personal or a little more in depth, because I mean, this is you actually promoting. You know, a lot of the other things you're recapping, you're not like behind the scenes running it. This, you're behind the scenes running it and taking care of everything. So, yeah, it's nice to have you here, you know, to give us the insight. And like I said, have the actual promoter here. How exactly did you feel about this year compared to others, or what was your, I guess, thought kind of as everything was unfolding?
So this is the 11th year in a row that I've been doing this King Kong. It's really, this is the main event I focus on every year. I mean, there's lots of great events, but this is such a big endeavor for me to do the whole thing, and you know, all the coordination and the awards, and that it's a big weekend for me. It's been 5 or 6 or 7 years in a row that we've been in the 200 to 300 entry range. I was really hoping that we'd break 300 this year, but alas, it didn't happen. We didn't get to 300. I really think the potential is there, so maybe next year. But leading up to the contest, it was more venues than ever. We had 30 or 31 venues even at one point. Everything I thought was going very well. Good communication with the promoters. And it was the goal was to get all the results submitted by midnight on Saturday, so that I can run, you know, do all the merging and calculating all the scores and all that. And that went well. Like, all the results were in by midnight, which was great. Normally, there's always 1 or 2 promoters that are a bit stragglers, and who are like, oh, I didn't realize I had to submit them so fast. So everyone got that this year, and there is hardly any data entry errors. There's always a few, but this year there was hardly any. But the big surprise this year was when I received the results from the Russian venue. And I just saw the spreadsheet, and the numbers were like incredible for a few competitors, for a few lifts. And initially, something didn't jive. I'm like this. So I right away, the promoter, I said, do you have video of these? Because the numbers are a little hard to believe. And they had filmed everything. They'd really sent me the videos, no problem. And then I started looking at the videos, and I couldn't initially see anything wrong. Like, technically, the lifts were done, you know, according to the King Kong rules. Everything was weighed. Like, everything looked really, really legit. It just, and I knew that at least two of the athletes I knew were very, very strong athletes. One they competed. Both have been competing for several years, and I knew they had the ability to lift big numbers, but I didn't think that big. Yeah. Especially 2 of them. So one of those 2 plus another guy, they competed in King Kong before, either last year or the year before, or the past 2 years, and the numbers were way up. So right away, you're like, I was like, I couldn't make sense of it. But the video, I couldn't make sense of. I couldn't see anything wrong either. So I started. I shared those videos with a few close, a small circle. You being one of the people involved. You know, Andrew Pankey, my King Kong lead promoter. Jed, a few small circle people, just say, you know, what do you think of these videos? Because the numbers to me seem too good to be true, too hard to believe. Mm-hmm. And we were all watching the videos, like we couldn't make sense of it. So all this to say is, the numbers, had there been none of these issues, I would have been able to post the results at 8 a.m. on Sunday. Everything was good to go, but I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't comfortable publishing these results just yet, because I was trying to see, am I missing something? What's going on? so a lot of that Saturday was a lot of communications between the people, myself and you, and the people I shared the videos with, and saying, what do you see? What do you not? What can explain this? And we and then one of the interesting things is, are we sort of putting a limit on what we think is possible, right? I mean, just because they're world records, is it, these people, we know these people, some of these people are quite strong. Is it possible that they trained really specifically, and maybe, training's going extremely well, and they're able to break these records? I believed it was possible that they could break the records. I didn't believe that they could break them the way they did. When you're breaking records by 10, 20, 30 kg, and you're seeing improvements from, over a few months of, these types of numbers, something doesn't make sense. But I know one of the pressures with I like being very responsive, and I like to be quick, and that's probably worked against me this time. Is that by the end of Sunday, by late Sunday, I'm like, I know everyone's waiting for the results. So in the end, we were, our group were sort of like, we don't know what the right thing to do is, but we're willing, we're gonna support you, Eric, whatever you do. So I decided to go ahead and post those results, and then the next morning I actually posted the videos of those lifts, and that's when more eyes got on those videos, and some things were noticed, specifically on the pinch block. And if you look closely, at least a couple of competitors, you can clearly see that the block is sticky, like the fingers, the way they're coming off, and you can even hear it if you have your volume up. So that was sort of like, all right, I really wasn't sure about these numbers, but now I'm very convinced that there was, that there was something going on that shouldn't have. So as soon as I saw that, I decided very quickly to pull back, to backtrack the numbers, and unfortunately exclude all of the results of that one Russian venue, because as soon as because I don't know exactly how things run, but as soon as some type of material gets on the block or the hands, we don't know, the order of lifts. We don't know. There's too much that we can't prove, and we don't know. So I think the only thing to do is to exclude all the rules of the venue. And I find that extremely unfortunate, because I do not think that all the competitors were aware of what's going on. I think it's very unlikely. And in fact, I found out later that the three main people in question competed on a separate day from the rest. So, there's a lot of unfortunate stuff, but in the end, I feel good with the decision. I do regret having to have published the results and then unpublish them, because I think that put a damper on the whole thing. So for that, I'm sorry, but I think in the end it had to be done, because if those results stayed, the amount of doubt, even without seeing videos, the natural reaction to see these numbers, and see them all come out of one location, it really turns everyone off of the King Kong. So I think I would have done a lot more damage to go ahead with those results than to not. So it really pointed out, once again, we know that there are imperfections with a multi-venue contest, but it does show that we got to put more safeguards in place to minimize this from happening again, because it did. That's the unfortunate thing. I think it put a damper on the whole weekend, and we should be celebrating these awesome results, celebrating the champions and the winners, and the weights legitimately lifted. But I feel like now it's not quite the same as in other years. So that's all I just wanted to say in terms of how my weekend went. It was extremely stressful, but now, having posted the results now a couple of days now, and then having some discussions on the grip board, and I sort of got a chance to sort of say my thought process, and I had communications with the Russian promoter, and I think we at least understand each other. Maybe not everyone's happy, but I think people sort of understand what I did and why I did it. So that's really all I can, I guess, hope for. before we get into talking about the results, is there anything else that you want to add from your perspective of the weekend? Or
Yeah, I could add some stuff. What I would say is when you kind of let the public kind of get eyes on it, and that's when things kind of picked up with actually having that definitive proof. But even then, it was like two main videos. So I think a good point for people to understand would be there was really proof on the block videos, like you suggested. And I assume that that was probably some type of adhesive, rosin, whatever. It was probably used on everything or to some extent. And, but that was the only two videos that you could see it in. And I think it's because you released a portion of the videos, meaning like there was probably 20 plus videos overall. So
I could have got more. I only requested the videos for the top list from the top people.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's the thing I want people to understand is they might look at like 6 videos they got put up. So they have that small sample size. And out of that sample size, just so happened to contain the 2 where the definitive proof was in. But combing through like 30 plus videos and watching them repeatedly, and then every single thing is measured and scaled, and you're spending so much time looking at it, and it's like all you needed was the proof from those 2 videos. But I think a lot of us spent time on so many other videos where visibly everything looked like you said. I mean, it's like, those numbers most likely aren't accurate, and that like it's almost like not humanly possible on some of it, or at least for that specific human, to make the improvements. But when everything with your eyes, like I thought that they were potentially like messing with the scale. Like maybe they had pre-programmed the scale to do something a certain way, and maybe there was a certain plate that was maybe fake in the stack, but then they would pull the stack off and all the plates are steel and they're what they're supposed to be. And then they'd put it on the scale, and then it would go to what exactly, what it said. So it's like, how would you program that? And then they would pull it off the scale, and then they would like calibrate it with like a 5 kg plate or something, and it would go up and back to 0. And I'm like, it's a lot of effort and it looks really good. It's like, I thought they were manipulating the scale, plates, everything. I mean, you think of, all this stuff. And at the end, I came to the conclusion that they had used some type of adhesive, but I didn't even know if an adhesive would give that much of an advantage to produce those kind of numbers. So I was almost second guessing myself there. And once
on that, I think the main event of all of the 4 events, I think it's the block where it would have the most carryover, right? For the vertical pinch. Yeah. I think that's where it helps. So so for the crusher and the jug, I don't probably some. So that's why I think maybe they were legitimately they broke the record. Probably not those amounts, but maybe they would have been lifted 5 or 10 kg less. Maybe we'll never know. Yeah. Unfortunately, they chose the wrong option to go that route. But maybe they were the best in this contest, but we don't know.
Well, and we've seen that kind of behavior before sometimes where there are legitimately strong people, and for some reason they still feel the need to do things outside the rules to try to get an extra boost. And it's like, you're already one of the top people. You're already strong. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's one thing if it's like a middle of the pack person who's trying to like get up there with the elites and maybe they're doing something, but it's weird to see guys that are legitimately strong and at, pretty much an elite level, at least one or two of them, or at least, at a very elite level. And it's weird to think that, I don't know what term I would use for it, but I just don't understand the thinking process there. Like, because even if you win by 40 pounds, what does that even do for you if you know that you lied and you cheated? So it's a weird thing, but like I said, I hope everybody understands the position you were in, because it's not like you took these numbers at face value. You had videos, they provided excellent videos. And it's often what happens sometimes when there is video submission is the video will tell the story eventually. It's just that a lot of us had looked at it. And I mean, I don't know how many times, but we looked at it a lot, and other people had looked at it a lot. And it took, like I said, that specific pinch block kind of thing, the stickiness of the fingers to really kind of kick it off. And that's that's what was assumed, but just couldn't be proven until that video proof popped up on those specific lifts. But all the other lifts were still getting reviewed with the same intensity.
Right.
So the jug, the crusher, all those other things were getting viewed like the same because you didn't know where it is. So like, of course, now that it's been kind of solved or the proof is there, it's the hindsight's 2020. It's very easy to look at it and say, oh, well, how could you not see that? It's like, it's different when you don't have the answer already and you're seeking the answer through 30 videos and a lot of other stuff is going on. And, you might be even thinking about the scale, the plates, you're thinking about adhesives, all kinds of stuff. And so
yeah,
I just hope that people aren't too critical on the situation. And I hope they kind of understand, well, anybody who's ran a competition with 10 to 15 people probably understands how frustrating that could be at one venue.
Right.
I just hope they understand what it's like when you have to deal with 30 plus venues, 250 competitors, and you have a certain venue that's cheating and doing the lifts illegally by bracing and tilting the implements. And then their lifts, their results suffer because of that. And then you turn around and you get these like insane numbers that make no sense. And you're trying to pinpoint what it is through 30 plus videos and nothing is really sticking out. And then next thing you know, you're dealing with another thing, so it's like I said, anybody that's been in charge of a competition can probably relate to the magnitude of what you're dealing with or what you had to go through and the stress of it. So like I said, I just hope people take that into consideration. Now that it's kind of all said and done, like I said, I think the right call was made. It's just when you're in a time crunch to do so much and you're only given so much evidence and there's only so many eyes watching it and there's only so much you can do with, what you have. I think you handled it professionally, and I think you did pretty much the best job you could have with all things considered. Like you said, maybe in a perfect world, the results didn't get put out prematurely, but like I said, that's assuming that you already had the proof and it was, dialed in, because if you don't have the proof, then you're basically canceling a venue and telling them, hey, I have no proof, but your guys' lifts don't count.
And one thing that's challenging is if I delay posting the results, I feel like I would want to explain at least some vague reason for the delay, right? But then I'm sure that could lead to other rumors and a lot of that. So that's the main. If I was to delay a few days the results, people would be like thinking about a whole bunch of different possibilities, right? So, and I didn't want to make any accusations right there. So it's a bit of a challenge, how to handle that whole thing, So and it's a learning experience, and in the end, I think we're it's behind us.
I would say ultimately, like you getting the results out there, and maybe that initial little bit of outrage, and then here's the video, and then then it got solved within essentially very quickly. I almost think that although it caused a little bit of a stir and things were going on, that really is almost what probably solved it faster than had you waited for 3 days or messed around. So like I said, the way it unfolded worked out and probably wrapped things up quicker than any other route. Probably, you have to, it's like a balancing thing. There's going to be a little bit of outrage. Things are going to get stirred up a bit.
Right.
But at the same time, it's the same.
And we knew as soon as I would post those results that there would be discussion. But the good thing is it got so many eyes on those videos and we hadn't seen it. So that even had I delayed, unless I start sharing it to everyone, I just didn't know if it would be right for me to share those videos publicly before the results are posted. You know what I mean? So it's a challenging, a lot of considerations. That's all I'm trying to say. So, but in the end, I think things worked out as they should, and now we get to celebrate some of the great lifts, great performances.
There's a lot of good lifts, a lot of good stuff going on in these different weight classes and stuff. So I'm definitely excited, like I said, to highlight basically all the other venues, all the other lifters, all the other people's hard work who made the right choice and ran things with integrity and stuff like that. So I would, like I said, so however you would like to dive in and kind of start.
I don't mind starting right with the top overall men's.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
So if you look at the top 20, 30, 40. I mean, it's a stacked. You never get a contest with everyone, but there's a lot of big names, and they're all right bunched near the top. Like if you place top 40, top 50, whatever in this contest, you're doing well. So there's so many talented people that it is sometimes surprising to see somebody who only got 25th. There's so many badasses in this contest, right? So somebody has to finish near the further down the list. But what can I say? King Kong Grip 2022 repeated 2023 Ivan, and so he also competed. I believe he competed on the same day as us on the Saturday, and he also had a rough time because he was dealing with this other situation that happened at another Ukrainian venue a couple of weeks before. A lot of stress. There's a lot of things going on in his life. I think he actually came down with COVID like right before, or like he wasn't feeling the greatest. Somehow he pulled it out and he got very good numbers. You'll see that the people who win or people who finish, let's say top 5, they're very well balanced. Like you can't have a bad lifting King Kong and expect to be near the top 10. You have to be good at everything. And he proved it. His lowest ranking was 9th for the jug. But hey, if you're top 10 out of 200 plus competitors, you're doing well. So he won, and he clearly won. He got with a 17-point total score. So for those who don't know, the way the scoring works in King Kong is it's reverse strongman. So if there's 200 people in an event, the very best, highest lift gets 1 point. The lowest lift gets 200 points. And then you sum the 4 events together, and the total score, lowest score wins. So his total score was 17. A very impressive score. I don't know. Who did we predict? I was trying to think. I predicted Jed. Do you remember who we predicted?
Yeah. You had predicted Jed, and I actually spoke because we had our panel last time with Will Giuliani and Jed Johnson. They were with us. Now, me and Jed had leaned towards Jason Dingy.
Yeah.
And Will Giuliani picked Arto Gironin, who actually came in 4th. So I talked to Will, and Will said basically he won one of our predictions because he picked the highest finisher. So so Will had picked Arto to do something and get first, but obviously he ended up in 4th. But that was higher than anybody else that we had picked because Jed ended up in 6th place, and then Jason Dingy ended up in 11th. So we were all of our predictions were right up there in the top 10. So,
but if you look at you saw the scores for 2, 3, and 4. You see how close that was?
Yeah, and then you also have another kind of similar thing from 7, 8, 9 almost.
Yeah.
Well, really, almost all the way out to 7 through
13. Yeah.
It's there's a lot of groupings that get really, really close on this.
Like a 1 point difference between 2nd and 4th. So that's so small.
Yeah.
That's a half a pound on a lift basically. But yeah, you have Matti Rautiainen, Carter Colo, and Arjun. I just want to say something about Carter. Carter Colo, 21 years old, lives in Saskatchewan, Canada. He's a climber, a very long time climber. And I met him at Canadian Nationals last year, 2022. That was his first contest. And the class was 231 and under, 105 class and under. I won that class, but he impressed me. Like of everyone in the venue, he had the best pinch block because the pinch block was one of the lifts in the Canadian Nationals last year, and he beat everyone. So to see a young kid on his first contest, 20 years old, 108 pounds, outlift everyone on the block, and he just was a very strong guy. I beat him then, but I think this was his only second contest, and whatever he's doing is going well because he's another very well balanced guy. Once again, his lowest ranking was 12. So, and he's 180 pounds. So definitely shades of Tanner Merkel. Like Tanner Merkel burst on the scene at about the same weight, about the same finishes in King Kong in his first year. So if I call him a kid, if this young man stays at it, he's got a bright future. It's very impressive. So it got me personally excited for Canadian Nationals. Canadian Nationals in 2024 are going to be out west in April. So I'm gonna have my work cut out for me this year, next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, yeah, I mean, I got to see some of his lifts. Definitely super strong. Yeah, and like you said, I mean, anytime you have somebody coming from that climbing background seems to be a good transition for him. But
yeah,
just because you climb doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna
no, you're
place
not.
the
This
way
is
he's
an elite.
placing.
Not every climber can do these numbers. So
Yeah, so he's
yeah.
definitely kind of special in that regard. And
Yeah.
I look forward to kind of seeing how that pans out. And I assume if he's going to stay active and grip sports something he wants to continue, competing in, we might run into him at the North American
I hope so.
championship.
I hope so. Yeah.
So that could be another time where everybody kind of clashes, or we get to see what he can
Yeah.
do with a lot of big names as well. So that's that's exciting.
Ardo, he's just such a consistent performer, right? He's always near the top. So what can you say? I mean, he had another good day. His jug is a little.
I was gonna say the jug got him because he put up 21 points on the jug, and everything else was 5.92. So I mean, he had two top 5 finishes, another top 10, and then that 21 is really what hurt him. If that 21 was another top 10 finish, I mean, you're talking about him probably being runner up, or depending on how the shuffle goes, he'd be right up there. So
yeah. Harry, who we found out just a few weeks ago that he had injured his main, I think, a thumb on his main hand, right? So this is all his non-dominant hand, from what I understand. So that's if this is his non-dominant hand, and he finished 5th place overall. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and with Hari, you're talking about a guy that also, I mean, not only like numerous world records and stuff, but I think he's one of 2 guys to ever do the and someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but like Jesse Pignonen and him are like the only 2 guys I think that have done double 55s pinch, so 2 55s in each hand simultaneously for a deadlift. So I mean, even if he has an injured hand, his other hand is like up there, very, very well balanced. So even with the hand injury, I kind of still expected him to be up there somewhere, just because of that kind of balance that he has.
Yeah. But I mean, if you look at so Jed and Harry were within a point, so those guys were battling out for 4th place, or 5th place, I should say. And then, like you said, the big glut of scores from basically 7th to 13th. That's a 9.5 point spread for all those positions. So it's so tightly contested, right? It could go either way. So all of these names, I mean, I would point out Tim is having a particularly good. This is by far, I think, his best King Kong.
Yeah.
We know that he has monster vertical lifts, but for him to get top 10, I think this is his first top 10. And so I'm very,
I believe so.
Yeah. I
think the difference maker for Tim was obviously we know he's a big threat on V-bar. Tim's thick bar has kind of picked up. I mean, Tim's strong everywhere, but one thing that Tim, I think, has struggled with at times, and this is just personal experience for me kind of competing with him and things, is there a certain, like he'll do like good pinch feats with like blobs and stuff like that, but like maybe he hasn't trained the Saxon. So like his Saxon numbers won't line up with the level of strength you're seeing him put into some other stuff. But I saw him in training, hitting like 100 pounds on the pinch block. And I knew when I saw that pinch was up around 100, I know the dumbbells he's lifting and I know his crusher's going to be up there. As long as he didn't take shortcuts on the finished ball, that could really drop him. So I was like, as long as when I saw that 3 out of the 4 lifts were like dangerous for him, like he's going to be good, and the finished ball might be the only thing that stops him. Once I spoke to him and once I kind of saw some stuff where it's like, okay, he's around that 80-pound mark for finished ball, it's like, this might be a good lineup for Tim where he's going to put together a good, like 4-piece, event set. And I think it kind of all came together for him because he lifted really well. So I was happy to see Tim up there in the top 10.
Yeah. But I mean, you can go down the name pretty far down the list. You're going to recognize you're probably going to recognize every single name. Well, you obviously follow the sport closely, but most people, anyone who follows the sport, all these names are, there's no big, there's not many no names. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, not at all. I mean, you could get up into probably as far as, and I'm just kind of doing this roughly in person, just live while we're doing this. But I mean, I'm seeing people that are well above average strength, down into the 70s, 80s, 90s, almost really,
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're like, the most elite grip people ever, but I mean, there's some strong people that are almost, getting close to like that 80th to 100th, gap. And it's like, it just shows how stacked everything is.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure.
I don't know if we want to move on to the men's weight classes.
Oh yeah, we can go men's weight classes just to kind of keep things rolling along. Yeah, and you want to start with 59 kg?
Yeah, so this is a repeat winner, Jesse. I say Hagedorn. I don't know if you know how to pronounce his last name, but
I don't. I was going. Yeah. If I just go by looks, I would say Hagedorn.
Yeah,
but I don't know if you have any other intel.
No, I don't. So this is a climber, another climber, not surprisingly. He lifts out of Steve Millard's venue, and he similar last year. He just had a clean sweep. He's a very strong guy. I believe he finished second in the pound for pound calculation this year. So obviously, super strong for his size. So yeah, and then the other ones, I mean, I know Aaron's from Australia. Palioka, I believe, I'm pretty sure it's from Ukraine. I don't know much about them, but they, it was within. When you see there's a tie, they both had 13 points. So ties are broken initially by the count back method. So what that means is, if there's a tied score, we look who had the most first place results. If no one, if somebody had a first place and the other person didn't, automatically he gets the higher rank. If neither got first place finish, or they both got, say, one, then we take a look at who got the most second place finishes, etc. And we just keep moving down the list. So in this case, Palioka had two second place finishes, whereas the highest finish Aaron had was a third. So for that reason, Palioka gets the higher rank. So that's how that works, if anyone's curious. If after going through all those comparisons, it's still a tie, then we resort to body weight. So body weight is only if there's still a tie after the count back method. So I know there's questions about that, but that's how it's done for King Kong.
Okay. Yeah, and I just think it's nice, like talking about Jesse taking that class win there. Mm-hmm. It's no secret that in grip a lot of times, and really a lot of different sports across the board, as you start getting into lighter weight classes, the pool of athletes kind of starts to dwindle down a little bit. So I like the fact that there are, kind of like elite strong lifters pound for pound that are holding their own and kind of making these other lighter divisions exciting.
Yeah.
It's good to see. So, whereas before, I mean, not this is a bad thing, but, like before, it's kind of like everything is like, you got all these, best way to put it is like, you have like all the household names and they're usually going to run 180 pounds and up. Occasionally there'll be a guy, below 180 that lifts okay.
Right.
And then it's like, then everybody will just be like, Yves Gravel, like it's like, that's like the go-to for like the light classes almost. It's like, there's like one or two people. And it's nice to see that there's even lighter classes down to 59 kg and that we have kind of maybe some household names or people that are going to be like, I guess like perennial competitors that are going to be around and just keep the divisions exciting. That way we don't have to resort to saying like, the one guy we all know is strong or the two people, it's like, it's nice to have I don't know, as we go down this list, it's nice to kind of see new names emerging, I guess new stars emerging and kind of seeing them hopefully stick with it and kind of build these divisions up.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be people that want to chase them and they're going to have to hold on to that. So I want to see that kind of develop for the lighter classes.
Yeah. 66 kg, only 6 competitors. There's a clean sweep for Ukraine. So I don't know anything about these competitors. This would be normally the class that Yves competes in, but Yves, I don't have the details, but I know he got some sort of injury in a recent climbing competition. So that's likely why he did not compete this year. But Melnick Roman, he got first in 3 of the 4, so he, clearly a strong dude. But yeah, those 66 and 59 are always the smallest classes in King Kong. But nevertheless, yeah, I'm sure that'll attract more people at that weight. And as climbers describe, as people who are into climbing, there's a lot in those weight categories. So I think those classes will just continue to grow every year. At one point, we were wondering, should we keep offering like the 59 kg class? Because I remember one year, I think there was only 2 entries. But, I think it's international, the competition. I think it would be a mistake to not keep offering it. It is one of the official GSI classes. So I think it will continue to grow. We just have to be patient. But I definitely think there are people out there that size who would be into grip if they discover it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
74. Did you have anything else for 66 or any other?
No, I was going to say that that first and second there was pretty close, with one having 5 points, the other one having 7. So, I mean, it was a tight race where, a lot of first and second place finishes between the top 2 there. And, it's one of those deals where, I don't know that I'd have to look up what they lifted like on a spreadsheet to see the margin between those lifts of like first and second.
Right.
But that's one of those where, any little lift here or there could probably swing that, that placing.
Yeah. 74.
Is this a repeat also? 74. Did Tom win last year?
I think Ben Cossey won this class last year.
Okay.
Ben did not compete this year though. Tom,
yeah, I spoke to him. Yeah, he said he had like an injury and some stuff, so it was kind of an injury type deal.
Okay. Tom, Phil Australian, he has won King Kong before, so I don't know if this I don't know if this is second or maybe third win. He's definitely an accomplished competitor in this sport. So he won, but Ben Galper, this is the new guy that Will was talking about.
Yes. Yep.
So he got, he won, got 2 first places. They each got 2 first places, and so Ben won the Crusher, which Will warned us about, that he knew that he was really strong in that event, and he also won the finish ball. So if this is only his first or second contest, that this guy is the real deal, and it'll be fun to see where he goes.
No, he's absolutely strong. Very, very strong. Like I said, I mean, anybody that's walking around, roughly, we're talking 160 some pounds. Was that like 163? If I convert it, is that accurate? I think.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're talking, 160s, and anybody that's just walking up and like picking up the inch dumbbell strict and everything else and stuff like that. Yeah, that's going to carry over to like a big crusher lift. And then I believe Will said that he's into like some climbing type stuff as well. Yeah. So we have another kind of lighter weight climber that the finger strength on some of these, lifts. It doesn't surprise me that he placed as well as he did. So he has a good battle between Tom and Ben there at 74. Yeah.
And third place was a Ukrainian one. Unfortunately, I don't know much about most of these Ukrainian lifters, but clearly they're strong. Whatever Ivan's doing in terms of growing the sport, it's especially evident. Well, we probably won't get around to talking about the youth division too much tonight, but the youth program, because he's working with teenagers and they're training for King Kong like year round. So they put up incrediable numbers. Like if they keep at it when they're going to be adults, it's going to be scary. So, I also noticed they have a lot of lighter competitors, whether it's the men or the women. So a lot of these classes, you'll see a lot of the Ukrainians finishing near the top of the standings. If we go to the 83, so 83, that was a very competitive class. A lot of big names in that class. Johannes, I think he won last year, or I think he did. I think he repeated. Yeah,
I believe so for 83.
And he's won a lot of big multi-venue contests. He's a very accomplished competitor.
He's super strong, very strong.
Yeah. But this was Carter's year. He got first in 3 of the 4. So there's a new, as Brad put it, there's a new sheriff in town, and very impressive. But it's a stacked class. If you look at the names going down this list, there's Mike Orgowski. He's won King Kong before.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strong guys. Will Reed from California. I think he used more typically 74, but now he moved up to the 83. Just strong guys. But the clear winner in this class this time was Carter. 27 guys in that class. So it's twice as big as the 74.
Yeah, really. That's when you start really kind of seeing the bump up in, I guess I don't want to say signups, but yeah, participation.
Yeah.
You start seeing, basically the number of lifters double in the class. And then, like you said, I mean, you have guys that are winning big competitions, even placing outside of the top 5. And even, like you said, Mike Rogowski, past winner in that weight class, getting 5th. So
yeah,
anytime you have, 3 or 4 different guys that can pop up and take out a past winner, that's just a sign that the weight class is getting very competitive and that all those guys are strong, you know, because Mike's not getting weaker.
No. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, all of us, maybe, I don't know what all the lifts look like for him, but I mean, you can have off days and stuff, but in general, I mean, he's training, he's getting stronger. So it's not a matter of like, oh, he fell off or he got weaker. No, he's strong. It's just that like these other guys are just strong too. And it just, you roll the dice on that day and anything can happen. So
yeah, him, it's really with his hand size, it's really the crusher that limits him. Because I think aside from the crusher, he got top 6 in the 3 others. So he could have easily finished higher. I think that crusher makes it tough. 93, another repeat winner, Santeri from Finland. Won last year, he won again. Not a clean sweep, because we know Tim won the jug on that one. And then I was happy to get a 3rd. I think it had been 3 years in a row that I got 4th. So I was happy to get a 3rd this year.
Yeah, I knew you had 4th last year, I believe. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So it's always 93 is always a competitive class. So if I can place in the top, I'm always near the top. I'm very happy. Clint, just right behind me by 1 point. I think he got 3rd last. I think we switched spots. I think he was 3rd last year.
Yes. Yeah, he was.
Devin Lee Brown. So he told me about this. He made the error of, I think on the pinch block, he got 60. And then for whatever reason, he went straight to 80 and he failed. So I think had he been more conservative in his jumps, I think 10th is a little misleading. Normally he would be much closer to the top. I mean, he won the arm lifting Super Series this year in his weight class, so he's definitely a strong guy.
Oh, absolutely,
So,
and I figured it would be you two battling it out on the crusher, which is what happened. It looks like you took 1st in that event, and he took 2nd.
Yeah, by like grams. Very, very close.
So you guys. I mean, just knowing that the strength level that you guys possess. I mean, you guys are right there, and it was probably just a tactical error and jump that probably hurt him there, because he took a 2nd place and a 5th place.
Right.
And if you could just kind of sure up, one of those other 2 events, he's probably sitting a lot better, especially considering that the 3 guys in front of him were, he scored 37. He put up a 37, and there was a 36, 36, 35. Yeah. I think if he just made one smarter jump, he would have already been up, at least 3 places. And then, I said, probably right there behind you and Clint Ziegler are in that mix for that, right there at the edge of top 5. So
now I think it's always we always have to consider that it's very few people in a contest like this are like super pleased with all 4 lifts. So everyone can say, oh, if only I got 5 pounds more, or if I only had locked that up. So everyone's in the same boat. So I think I don't want to I'm mentioning this case because I know he told me about this, right? But who knows? Maybe one of the people who finished in 8th or 9th had a similar mistake. So we don't know. Right?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it is that way where sometimes we just assume that everybody hit like all their PRs and had their best day, and it wasn't our best day. And it's like, well, it usually doesn't ever work out that way. So you just gotta think that whatever your experience is in these competitions is probably pretty similar. Everyone else's is probably similar. So
actually, if we just take a pause here, how did you feel for your numbers? Like in terms of what you were expecting, and were you satisfied? Where were you satisfied? Which ones were? How did things net out for you?
Man, and I was at 105. So if we jump, I mean, I know we're talking about 93, but yeah, I'm fat Zach right now. I'm up at 105, but
Okay.
I considered cutting to 93. So I was thinking about it because I was like, Luke Raymond said he's doing 105.
Okay.
I was like, Luke will be out of the way. And I was like, I think I could maybe squeeze out a top 3 if I cut. And then just seeing where my weight was and everything, I was like, man, I was like, I'd rather just kind of not put more on my plate with the having to diet and cut and stuff like that. And then there's another competition coming up that the limit's 220 for. So I just didn't want to try to like do 2 competitions very close together, starve myself out and maybe hurt my performance in this and, almost kind of sabotage 2 competitions, just chasing one thing that may or may not happen. So I kind of just stayed eating whatever I wanted, didn't cut, and was in the 105 class. For my personal lifts, Eric, I lifted 203 pounds on the crusher. I made a 5-pound jump and I missed it by about an inch or 2, which the lift I missed would have been about a 1-pound PR.
Okay.
So not terrible. Had I hit that would have been a PR. If you go back to my highest lift, the 203, it's about 4 pounds under my best ever in competition. So that's pretty close. I can't complain there. The block was a little bit lower. I just haven't been pinching that style or haven't had time to work it as much. But I still pulled 88.5 pounds. So just under 90. So I missed 90, but I pulled 88, which roughly around a 90-pound pinch block in competition is about a PR for me. So once again, I was right there on the edge of attempting a PR and ending up just a couple pounds short. I'm not complaining about that. The finished ball was a slight PR, and I did like 77.6. And then for the jug, which I haven't done in competition before, well, I did one. I actually did once. So I did the jug in competition about a month prior to this. And this one, I had about a 20-pound PR on it. So things were just kind of clicking on that lift. So I was kind of happy that I pulled 226 on the jug. And like I said, essentially 2 out of 4 PRs. And then I had a shot, the 2 lifts that weren't PRs, I had a shot at PRs. So
it's not bad overall. Yeah.
I lifted about as good as I could have hoped to have lifted, all things considered. And the 105 kg class is just lined up with just murderous lifters. Like I placed 11th at the 105 class, and if you go through the top 10, it might be the most stacked division we have. I don't know.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that class. I do think that's my nomination for most stacked class. It was also the biggest class, so 40 guys, and I'll just quickly read out the names of the top 11. Okay, Ivan Popchenko, Harry Talonen, Mike Schimmel, Joe Hodgson, Thomas Larson, Luke Raymond, Steve Millard, Zach Ebel, Jarno Hivari, Medvedev, Roman, Zach Mullins. I mean, that's a strong field. There's no slouches there. And Ivan came out on top. I mean, we won the whole thing. But Harry was, he got one of the first places and second in another one. And Mike Schimmel's another guy a lot of people probably don't know. He's also from out west in Canada. I believe he's more from the powerlifting background. I might be wrong on that. But I met him also at Nationals last year, and he finished second. It was me, Mike, and Carter were 1, 2, 3. I can't remember who was second, who was third offhand, but a strong dude. And this was obviously a very impressive performance for him to make top 10 overall and get third in this class. That's a big deal. Joe Thompson, all the names we mentioned, and Luke with his crazy jug lift. It's just it's a tough class. Tough class.
Absolutely. And just something that I noticed was out of the top 10, 4 were from the 105 class.
Oh, right. The top 10 overall. Yeah.
Top 10 overall, there was 4 guys from that 105 class. So if you want to be top 5 if you want to be a top 5 lifter at 105, then you almost have to place top 5 overall or be top 10. You're going to have to be up there.
It reminds me a few years ago, I don't know if it was it's been a few years, but I got fourth in the 93 kg class that year, and I got seventh overall. So four of the top seven spots were 93 kg guys. I'm like, how sucky is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this year, the 105 class, that was the monster class. And it was, yeah, I guess it was sort of a battle for third, right? Mike, Joe, and Thomas all within 2 points.
Yeah, real close.
Very close. If we go to the 120, it was won by Yu Hamati. He got second overall. But as you see in this class, it was actually quite close. Jed was very close behind, 14-16. So he almost got another title. At this point, I don't know how many King Kong. Jed has won the overall before, but he's also won weight classes. I don't know how many times. He's one of the winningest King Kong performers, competitors ever. Brad won this class last year, so this year he got third. Jalen, Jalen, he's only been in the sport for I think a year or a little over a year.
Yeah, about a year.
So for him to do already, knocking on the door of the really top competitors, he's and he got the world record pinch block lift. So great day for him.
I mean, essentially, this would be his King Kong debut, and he's been active. So I can't say it's like one of his first competitions, but yeah, he's been doing about a year and was kind of getting more recognition on the gripper side of things for gripper certifications, and then he just started attacking the competitions and getting diving into any competition mix he could, and he just keeps getting better and better at these competitions. So for his first year, I'm expecting to just kind of see him be one of these top guys, from year to year that at those heavier weight classes that is going to be a force. So
yeah. And that class was the second biggest class, 36 people in all. So good turnout. And then the supers, Ardo won it once again, another weight class, super heavyweight class title. Him and Jason, they each got 2 first places. So but Ardo's combination was just a little better than Jason's. So and Luke Reynolds, for those of you who don't know who Luke Reynolds is a huge strongman out of Australia. I met him at the Arnold's. It was at the Arnold's, at the Arnold's this year.
Yep.
So I'm really glad that he's trying to enter King Kong. That's great to see. And for him to get, I don't think he has probably the training on some of these smaller implements, or I don't suspect he does. But I'm happy to see that he managed to get a third place in his first King Kong. So that's great. And that was 31 competitors. We skipped over it, but I also wanted to mention that Ivan, I think, increased. I think he already had it, but he increased
the finished
ball world record. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I was looking at our predictions from what we thought the top list would be. So the one we overestimated the Crusher. I think we were thinking the 260s, high 260s, maybe somebody in the 260s.
Yeah.
But the highest lift was Jason's, and it was only about 240. Not to say that's a bad lift. It was just lower. A lot of the big guys from last year did not enter. The guys who were really good at this particular event, AJ from California did not enter. Alexei Tukalov didn't enter. So, so top lift was only 240. Pinch block, I think we sort of expected I don't think we expected as high as Jalen got, but we expected sort of in the
110, 115.
Yeah. So we undershot that one just slightly. Finish ball, we were pretty much right on. Like we were talking about 107, and I think you got 107 or 108 around there. So pretty bang on. And then the jug, the jug, we were close. I think didn't you get it right on? Didn't you say like 305?
I'd have to go back and listen to the episode again. I know that I spoke with Luke today, and he mentioned that I don't know. Like I said, this is coming from him now. He said that you had mentioned something before when the jug was contested that you didn't think anyone would break 300. So that was kind of
his what goal. I thought. Yeah.
And he was like, and then he's like, your guys' prediction again this year. He said the same thing, and he's like, I'm gonna prove that guy wrong. Like he said, so that was in his head, when he pulled off that record this year with the 305. But he said it was almost like a repeat of the jug being tested before that. He said, he said the same thing. No one's getting 300. So pretty funny.
But I'm pretty sure you said 305, and that's, I think, pretty much exactly what he got. So well done. Is there anything else you want to talk about the men before we go on to the women? Or
like I said, I think that covers it really. I do like the fact, like I said, that there's some new exciting names, even lighter weight competitors that are kind of popping up, and even some of the lighter weight guys that have won things, they're coming back to repeat, win their weight class multiple times. I would like to see people stay with it and kind of keep pushing the lighter weight classes up and get those, I guess, the talent pool a little bit bigger, and just keep the matchups fun, because man, some of these things, like you said, if you really look at how close it is, I mean, 1 pound could, just completely throw off all the standings. I don't know. Like I said, I guess I just like looking at the statistics and the side of it, that side of it with, like I said, competition this big. I just want to see more people continuing to compete, and the bigger guys are already kind of established, but those lighter classes where you have 7 or 8 people, it's like I want to see those kind of turn into 16, 20, and then see them kind of chase each other and go at it. So that's really it. But yeah, it looks like it's things are moving in the right direction.
One thing I just want to point out, because I think a lot of people might not know this, is that to calculate the overall score, we're comparing all the competitors together. Mm-hmm. But within a weight class, you're only being compared for the scoring. You're only being compared to people in your weight class. So you will see some things that may not make sense. Like you might be third in your class, but in the overall, you're actually finished ahead of the guy who finished in second. So there are these little variations, because the score is completely dependent on who else is competing in your category. Yeah. So it's not that there are mistakes in this. It's just that we're using a different base to calculate the score. So it's natural and normal for these types of variations. So if you see, wait, how come he's ahead of me in the overall, but I beat him in my weight class? It's because we're looking at different fields, and that's how the scoring works. So it's not wrong. It's just different.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I've seen a lot of people kind of wonder that or bring it up, and it's a thing. So yeah,
well, I think it's sort of one of the fun things, right? Like that's one of the reasons I like the reverse strongman, is it has some of these elements, and you can, it's really compared to other people in the field. So, and I like, it's also very simple and to calculate. You got the win, you got 1 point. That's as simple as that. Yeah. All right, if we move to the women's overall. So for the third time in 4 years, I believe, Sarah Chapelot, Queen Kong and grip, almost a clean sweep. Tammy had a spectacular finish ball. So finish ball world record, women's world record, and she got second overall. So at her light body weight, it really, I mean, she's chasing Sarah, and she still has some work to do to get to Sarah's absolute numbers. But she's definitely fighting above her weight. Let's say. It's impressive.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what we had predicted, or most of the people on the prediction panel had said, Sarah and Tammy for 1 and 2.
Right.
And another couple people possible, but I don't see their names on here. Some of the other ones, it's like that, for whatever reason, like a lot of the male competitors, for some reason, they just didn't compete. Could be injuries, could be timing. You never know. But but I think for the most part, everybody was kind of leaning towards Sarah to win, and Tammy to be kind of right behind somewhere. For third place, I don't want to mess up the name. Are you familiar with this name at all?
I am not. No.
Okay. I don't know how to say it. Saiha Cantola.
Yeah.
I don't know how to throw the J there, but to finish third place, above some strong women's lifters.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was just curious if that was a debut or if that was, maybe, oh no, she's been competing for a long time. I wasn't sure about that.
I'm not sure either. So I
Okay.
can't.
Yeah. No problem. But yeah, a nice third place finish there. And then Jen Tibbenham was one that had come up in our other predictions we were mentioning, and she placed fourth. So she was, not too far behind there.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, a lot of familiar names, and
Ashley, who's 9 months pregnant, I understand.
I saw something about that. Yeah, yeah. So
I competed with her over the summer out west at the Arm Lifting Canada event. I forget, in July, and she was already, well, she would have been, I guess, 6 months pregnant or whatever it was.
Yeah,
definitely showing. But for her to be doing this at 9 months and still
took
doing
7.
so well, it's impressive. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that stands out. Is there anything else that's standing out in the overall to you?
Not in the overall, but once we get to the smaller classes, I have some stuff to say about some of these women.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's move on then.
So a lot of the names who finished near the top of the standings in these lower weight classes are actually local people to where they're in Ottawa. And this is all thanks to Andrew, I can't pronounce his last name, Nguyen, and Rachel Hartwigson. These are two climbers who competed for the first time at one of my contests earlier this year, and they took a love it. They just fell in love with the sport, and they decided, you know what, Rachel especially was like, I want to grow. I have tons of friends climbers who would love this, but it's a little intimidating to compete in an open weight class with the women. Mm-hmm. So they started hosting their own contests, women only, but with all the different weight classes. And the women's side of the sport locally has exploded. So if you like a lot of these names, Amina Alec is one of them. She got second in the lightweight women's class, behind Natalia, who's an established Ukrainian competitor. But the numbers, I don't have the weights in front of me, but she was very, very strong. So, that Natalia won score 5, Amina score 7. It wasn't too far. I don't know all the names, but the women's 63, Shaolin Rose, she's also a local competitor, local climber, and she had a clean sweep. So yeah, very strong. So pretty much every single women's class, might not, except for maybe the supers, had a local competitor finish, if not top 3, very near this top of the standing. So it goes to show you there are these strong people out there. You just have to find them and expose them, because, like I said, you just need, it takes exposure, but it takes needs someone to discover the sport and then take it upon themselves to grow. We still don't have enough promoters out there. We don't have enough people who take the reins and host contests. But if you host a contest, especially if you bring it to the people who are strong, it's easy. It's very easy to grow the sport. We just need more doers, I guess, more people who want to take that step. Because it's not. I'm not saying Ottawa has the best women climbers in the world, but I'm saying this is what they were able to develop in just a few months, right? So it can be done if there's the desire and the willingness to put in the effort.
Yeah, and that's just goes to show that, there's probably a lot of other people that are hearing this that have promoted or have been to competitions, and it's like the people in your area. You could have people just like this in your area, speaking Absolutely. to whoever else is out there, hosting, promoting. You might find the next, 4 or 5 people that are rising stars are going to stomp people at the lighter weight classes. You just don't know who you're going to come across. So yeah. I think just the in-person exposure and kind of hosting. Online is a good method for putting stuff out there, but ground level and hosting in your region in real life is really there's nothing that can really substitute that, or you can't really substitute anything for that, I should say.
Right. So I don't really have much to say about too many of these. I don't know enough about the different competitors other than the local ones. Tammy, clear domination in her class.
Yeah,
Um,
clean sweep there.
84 was a tight class with Sarah,
Real close, yep.
the two Sarahs, Sarah Saffel with the win, Sarah Rodwell, and Michelle Collins. That's another Canadian from out west who's it's very tight race, 7, 9,
Yeah.
10.
We have to give a shout out to Sarah Saffel for being Team Ohio.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, good weight class win.
Yeah.
And like you said, very close there because it was separated by 2 points with both the 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Sarah's right there. They both
top three, top three each won one of the events, got a first place in one of them, so that's great.
Yeah.
Saija won the 100 with the names we've already mentioned, and then the supers clean sweep for Sarah.
Yeah.
I don't like. I haven't looked at the numbers closely, so it's possible some of these are new world records. I really don't know yet. So,
yeah, I would assume that they probably are, or she probably set some PRs, at least in a few events. So,
right. And if we look at just the Masters, Ardo wins the Masters yet again. I don't know how many times he's won this, but he's won several Open Masters classes. I know right now it's an open weight class, so chances are it's going to be won by the heavier guys. And Jason turned 50 this year. He got second. But you look at Steve. Steve got, it was 7 points for Ardo, then Jason with 10, and Steve Millard with 11, and he's much smaller. And he's got a few years on. I think he's about the same age as Ardo, but he's got a few years on Jason. So that's an impressive performance. Steve has consistently placed top 3 in this category for many years now.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, even like right there, he's placing third, second.
Yeah.
I mean, he's top 3 in every single thing across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to eclipse those 2 other guys, but he's right there. And the women's masters, there were only 5 competitors, but Corinne is someone who competed in my venue. She's also a climber, and she just missed the 63 class, so she's not a big woman, but she's strong and she loves the sport. So I think we'll be seeing more of her as well. Yeah, so those are the classes. Like, I don't have enough details on the junior classes, so I don't know.
That's okay. Yeah, and then we pretty much kind of covered most of it, at least the top lifts for the male competitor side of things, as far as where we thought those top lifts would turn out.
Yeah, we didn't do
all that.
I wouldn't have been able to do a prediction shows in the top lift for the women, but I have the figures here. So Sarah did lift 83 kg on the crusher. So what's that? That's about 183 pounds. That's a big lift. She lifted 37 kg on the pinch block. What's that? That's about, it's close to 80, right? 80 or a little over 80.
Yeah.
There's a lot of men who don't lift 80 on the pinch block.
Yeah. You said that was 37 and a half?
37.25, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
terrible with the conversions. 82 pounds. Yeah. Almost as much as me. Sarah, you need to slow down.
Tammy with a 34.5 on the finish ball, and that's 70 mid to upper 70s.
Yeah.
And Sarah with 92.8 on the jug, so 200, I think about 205 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, like for the pinch block, like Sarah was 6 pounds under me, and then for the finish ball, I just beat Tammy by 1 pound. So,
right,
they're tough lifters.
Yeah,
real good.
So not surprisingly, Tammy won the pound for pound title, and Carter won the pound for pound title for the men.
And then for the other, you said that the other lighter weight climber, Jesse, he was like probably right behind Carter.
He was second, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you just end up with a couple of lighter weight climbers. It's just they're both probably pretty freakishly strong. It's just Carter's numbers are like out of control.
Yeah. So it was ended up being a very interesting contest, like always. the beginning of the week. The beginning of the week was a bit of a rough, a special circumstance, but I think, all in all, great numbers, great performances. And I've said it before, that King Kong is not a perfect event. There's a lot of challenges with the multi-venue contest. We're not all lifting in the exact same environmental conditions. But for what it is, I think it's great. I mean, how many sports can you sort of compete with people around the world remotely, right? You can't do that in every sport. You can't do it in any team sport, that's for sure. And so these individual sports, we're lucky to be in one where it's at least possible. Might not be perfect, but I think it's so cool to be able to say you compete with people with Ukraine and Finland and Australia and Chile, and it's a lot of fun. So I hope people continue to enjoy this. If you've won a medal, so if you placed top tier in your class internationally, or if you had a top lift, or the awards are going out in the next few weeks. It's going to take me a while to get all caught up because I am leaving. Like you, we're heading to the World Armlifting Championships this weekend in Florida.
Yeah, and in the same weight class. So
yeah, so my goal is to get all the awards out in the next couple weeks. Hopefully, everyone will get them. Overseas takes a little longer to get, but in North America, you'll get it sometime in November. In fact, I will be bringing a handful of medals to anyone who's going to the Worlds in arm lifting who won a medal. I'm going to have it on hand, so I'll be able to hand deliver, which is fun for me and also is cheaper. so that's the added bonus of doing that way. So yeah.
So now with the kind of the awards kind of wrapping up, you said this was the 11th year that you've hosted King Kong. Now, obviously, every year comes with its own challenges, whatever. There's going to be King Kong's not going anywhere, right? Next year, what are your plans for next year? What are you thinking?
I got to tell, if you would have asked me this on Sunday or Monday this week, I wouldn't be so sure, because it is hard. It's stressful. It's a lot. It's a lot to take, especially if you're trying to do a lot of other things at the same time, right? So, I think with the way it ended, I think there is still a lot of interest in this contest, and for that reason, I do think, I will like to try. I will try and explore, see how better ways to do it or improve. But I don't want it to the point where all of this extra work, if it ends up resulting in a lot of extra work and a lot of extra, that takes some of the fun out of it for me. So I just have to find the right balance. But yeah, 11 years, I do want to hit that 300 mark. I don't know why it's taking so long. I know COVID put a damper on it, but I feel like there's got to be 300 people worldwide who want to compete in this contest and see how they stack up. Right? It's your best. This is the best contest to see where you stand in the grand scheme of things. Of course, it's dependent on what the events are, but I think it's a decent balance. It's not always the same events. So if you're able to place consistently near the top of the standings every year in King Kong, given that we typically change one or two events a year, you're sort of demonstrating over the long haul that you are strong in various aspects of grip. So if you're doing well on the local scene and you're wondering, how you compare to the rest of the world, I think this is the best chance to see exactly how you are doing.
Now, I won't ask the annoying question that everybody does when a competition wraps up. What are the events for next year? Is too soon for that.
Yeah.
But that being said, is there a guaranteed staple, there's one that you could guarantee that will be there next year, but you haven't had the others figured out?
I wouldn't even say that.
Okay, so it could be completely like a whole
I think it's important. So there's a lot of things that I have to consider. I have to consider, because what happens as soon as the events are announced, there's a mad rush of orders that comes in. So I have to make sure that that whatever piece of equipment is, that the supplier is available to produce, either has a big inventory or you can meet the demand. Because that was a challenge this year for some of the events, some of the implements, and I want to eliminate that frustration, right? So I want to take implements that are easily accessible. They can't be too expensive. They can't be too cost prohibitive to ship overseas. So nothing too heavy, nothing too something pretty simple to judge and officiate. So there's a lot of, and I want it to be a well balanced contest. So there's a lot of factors that come into it. So yeah, I don't want to commit to anything just yet.
That's all good. Yeah, I wasn't gonna try to get you to...
and there won't be anything before. I don't even want to say, because last year I said not before the new year, and that's for sure not before the new year. But last year, like 20 people reached out to me the first week of January, right? One of the events posted. So I don't even want to commit to that. Yeah. I will promise it will be posted well in advance. But guys, take a break. The next few months, I mean, if you have a contest lined up to compete, great, train for that. But forget about King Kong for a few months. I think it's good that you don't, because some of these people, I know some people who train with the events listed so far in advance. A lot of people train from the day the events are listed, right? So you can get burnt out on an event, right? So I think it's maybe take a few months. Don't think about King Kong. If you have other contests, train those lifts. Relax.
No, for sure. Like I said, I didn't want to try to put you in a bad spot, like trying to decide, implements on the spot. I know that's ridiculous, but I wasn't sure if there was like, oh, at least one of these handles will be in it, and then the other three are undecided. So no worries there.
I'm still undecided.
Okay. Yep. Is there anything else, Eric, that you would like to mention? I think that covers all the results, obviously, and then you did a good job of breaking down kind of how things are scored, how ties are handled. Just maybe some extra information for anybody wondering. Yeah.
I just want to say this contest is obviously completely dependent on the promoters stepping up and willing to host this event. I know it's a lot of promoters, especially if it's your first year. You got to buy the equipment. There's some fees to be able to host the venue. All those fees are just to help me purchase and ship the event. The bulk of the cost in this contest is to purchase these kick-ass awards and ship them around the world. That is expensive. But for a promoter, the first time, especially, you got to buy the implements, you got to buy the setup, and there are fees. So I really appreciate that every year there are new promoters who step up and are willing to get involved, and all the competitors. A contest like this is only as successful as the people who are involved. So I really appreciate everyone who either holds a venue or attends a venue and competes in King Kong. So thank you, everyone who helps. Thank you for helping me promote as a promoter, a competitor, and promoting the event through these videos. It's great as well. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, no problem. And like I said, King Kong was one of the first, competitions I heard of, when I first got into it. So yeah, it's something that I'll be probably hosting. Like I said, especially because I host so close to where I'm at, it's like I've been driving I drove like 9 hours to nationals and other stuff, like when you're doing those kind of trips, or like even worlds, I'm getting ready to drive down to Florida. It's like when you're doing some of those drives, it's like I can pretty much just host King Kong like right here. It's like one of the few things that I don't have to travel for. So it's regardless if I'm good at the event lineup or whatever the case is, I always intend on, at least here in North Carolina where I'm at, I always intend on having a venue for people available in the area. And like I said, it doesn't have to do with, these events are good for me or bad for me. It's local. It's easy for me to host, and it might be some other people's, first introduction to grip and stuff like that, or it might be a way to get people in the area kind of, okay, I don't have to be in front of like a crowd of 300 people, and I can kind of,
yeah.
So I always plan to support, and like I said, just kind of help promote, in my little area here and whatever I can control, and that's a part of the bigger picture. But yeah, so no problem there. Like I said, that I plan on doing that anyway. So
cool.
And then so I guess we'll probably wrap up with that, and then good luck to anybody that is maybe competing in Worlds, because there's a lot of us that just did King Kong that are about to be at Worlds, I know, on the arm lifting side of things. And then I guess just congratulations to all the overall winners, weight class winners, and really just anybody that stepped out and competed for the first time. Anybody that, okay, maybe you didn't place that well, but every lift you hit was a PR.
Yeah.
That's a win, in itself there. So just shout out to everybody that, put it on the line and competed. So, yeah.
I agree.
All right. So we'll just wrap up with that, man. Like I said, and then we'll look forward to next year.
All right. Thanks a lot, Zach.
Yep.
Bye,